the same reason, trying to make sense of it all. So when I wound up in my first psychology class in college, I just happened to take it because I had to pick an elective. And as I sat there learning, it was the first time I ever was excited about learning. It was the first class I ever looked forward to going to. And I would sit there thinking, why doesn't everyone have to be in this class? I mean, it's the study of human behavior. It's the common denominator of all of us. And the more we could actually learn about our behavior and the behavior of others, the more harmony we would have in life. The more we would all get along, the more we would get joy out of life. And so that became my mission, to really help other people understand who they are and understand others as well. And I kind of glossed over it, but I came from Delaware County. I was born and raised, all my Delco people here. There's always Delco people, no matter where we go. No matter what country you're in, you find Delco. I grew up in an interesting childhood, a bit dysfunctional, and when I was in that psychology class, I most importantly realized that my parents were just repeating cycles. And they didn't know better. They didn't know what they didn't know. And so I really tried to shed light on people to understand their own beliefs and behaviors that were programmed early on in life, maybe not intentionally at all, so that they can break their own cycles and create the life that they desire. And that's what I'm really going to be sharing with you all today. And so the first question I always ask when I'm talking about the MORE method is a really important question, and it's going to sound so basic, but it's really profound. And the question is, what do you want more of? Now, I know all of you are goal setters in here, but this question is a bit deeper, more authentic to who you are when you say, what do you want more of? Goal setting, often we're in our ego, and we're just, especially if we have somebody saying, our boss saying, what goals do you have this year? Sometimes everyone's writing things down that they don't actually believe they can do, but it sounds good. But when you say to somebody, what do you want more of? It's really getting to the soul of what their desires are. Desire is a very powerful emotion that allows us to overcome obstacles and overcome limited beliefs that we might have. So I would love for you to pause for a second and think about that. What is it that you want more of? Now, I know people will often say time and money, right? We all want more time and money. But this goes deeper. When someone says to me more money, I'll say to them, but why? Why more money? Well, I want to provide for my family, but why? Well, I'm sending my kids to college, I know, but why? And as I start to peel it back, I get to the root of the desire. A woman recently that I was doing this exercise with said to me, well, when I was younger, we didn't have money. And so I never want to be in that position again. I couldn't even go to my senior prom because we couldn't afford for me to go to my senior prom. So I never want my kids to not be able to go to their senior prom or something that they desire to do. And so really why she wanted more money was power of choice. That's a lot more powerful of an understanding of self, not for money's sake, but the power to choose, the power to create the life that you desire, the power to choose so you don't miss out on something that you find valuable or important. So you see how when an obstacle come up in life, understanding that desire pushes you harder than your ego. I'm going to say ego a lot, and I want to clear something up because a lot of people say, well, isn't ego what makes us successful? There's a saying that my friend has that was one of the most genius sayings that I live by. Your ego is not your amigo. It will seek to actually sabotage. It will seek to destroy. The only thing you're in competition with is yourself every day. You being better than you were yesterday, and you being better than you were the day before, and seeking to be better every day going forward. That's the number one competition. If you do that well, you'll do everything well. And so I asked, what do you want more of, to get clarity, because often people don't get more of what they desire in life, because number one, they lack the clarity. And that question really brings about a sense of self as you start to peel it back. The second reason people don't get more of what they desire in life is because when they were younger or some stage in life, they set some goals and didn't meet them. And then they felt disappointed in themselves. And so instead of stretching themselves further, they started to minimize their goals for fear of disappointing themselves. And so when you minimize your goals, or minimize your desires, you minimize your potential. We can't stretch if everything's easy. We stretch and grow when things are hard, when they're challenging, when we overcome obstacles, when we have to face fears, when we have to learn something new that even might be scary. And so when we expand our goals, then we can stretch. And even if we don't meet them, it's okay, because we become more in the process. And that's the objective, always becoming more. And the third reason people don't get more of what they desire in life is because they just don't know what they don't know. And I'm going to assume this is the majority of you in this room, just not knowing what you don't know. And what I mean by that is we have a lot of beliefs and behaviors that are subconsciously programmed that we don't even realize that we have, that will cause self-sabotaging. How many of you heard the term self-sabotaging before? I'm going to use that term a lot. Self-limiting beliefs and self-sabotaging behaviors. And that's just not knowing what you don't know. But if you know it, then you can overcome it. If you know it, you can circumvent around it. Did you know that 80% of your subconscious beliefs, 80% of your subconscious beliefs were programmed by the age of 7? Oh, I know, there's parents in the room like, oh gosh, wait, what did I do to my kids? Good news, we can reprogram our subconscious mind until the day we die. This is the new neuroscience, and neuroscience is an infant in the science world. And we are learning so much about our brains and our ability to change the hardwiring on our brain till the day we die. And so most of our subconscious minds or brains are actually programmed by the age of 7. And many people stay there because they never explore it. They don't know that they can change it. And so they just keep going through life kind of a very important point here. Your conscious mind is only 20% of what's operating every day. This is average, right? The conscious mind is often editing things or maybe thinking about things, but it's the subconscious mind that's driving us on the majority of the day. And the more that we can be aware of that, the more we can reflect and audit. I'm going to use the word audit a lot too, to get more clarity as to what is in the subconscious programming to change it. And so here's where it begins. The More method came to be because I wanted to create a formula or a format that anyone at any stage of life can use over and over and over again. Whenever you get stuck, whenever you realize, oh, I keep repeating that pattern, oh, I keep dating the same person with a different name with the same result, oh, I keep getting another job and I keep getting the same result, that's because the subconscious mind is reprogramming or repatterning the same behaviors. Anytime you get the same result, you have to change something in your programming. And so, in order to get more of what we desire in life, we first have to become very aware of what we desire, and then we begin to visualize what we desire. This is building the foundation of your home, okay? So any foundation of any building has to have a solid foundation, or if storms come, what happens? I mean, you're all real estate in some aspect here. Those of you giving out mortgages don't want a foundation that's not solid, right? And so everyone wants a solid foundation. And this is what happens. Often we as people haven't built a solid foundation first. And the foundation begins like this. We begin to get clear as to what we want, and then we begin to visualize what that is that we desire. Visualization is a very, very powerful psychological tool. Just about every professional athlete will tell you that they used the power of visualization to get to where they are. Just about any really successful person in business will tell you that somebody at some point in their life told them to visualize what the life that they wanted looked like, and then they became the person to fit into that desire. Michael Phelps talked about this all the time in interviews. Michael Phelps would talk about how when he was a kid, he would stand on an ottoman in his family room and put, catch this, multiple gold medals, fake gold medals at that time, around his neck. And he would stand on the ottoman just envisioning all of the people cheering for him, and the crowds, and the lights, and the cameras. And then he became that. He didn't just think about that moment. He thought about every time he was in the pool, how fast he would flip, what that flip would look like. And then that's how he became so successful. The 4-minute mile is something I challenge you all to look up and research, but basically for a long time people thought no one could run faster than a 4-minute mile. So culture had a limited belief that people just can't run faster than a 4-minute mile, until this guy Roger Bannister decided, you know what, I'm gonna break the 4-minute mile. And he did. And he talks about how he did it, same way as Michael Phelps would talk. He would think about how fast he was running, how his arms were pumping, how his breath felt, how he felt stretching through the finish line. He not just thought it, he felt it. Emotion is energy in motion. We have to attach what our thoughts are to our emotion in order to get the energy in motion. That's quantum physics, part of this, bringing all these sciences together for you. But he would actually think about that, how people would cheer. And after Roger Bannister did that, thousands of people have broke the 4-minute mile. Now it almost seems silly, like really? People thought you couldn't do that faster than that? So we begin to visualize what we want, and we feel the emotions. Therefore, we work who we are towards that. Then we have to believe that we're worthy and capable of having it. If you set out desires or goals for yourself, but you don't believe you're worthy of it, it doesn't matter what it is. You won't get it. And so we have to really explore our own beliefs of worthiness. And if we don't feel worthy of it, and we're not walking around every day going, why not me? Then it's gonna get a lot harder to get there. A lot of people walk around and say, well, why me? Who am I to do this? I would love to encourage you all to say, why not me? Somebody's gonna do it, right? Why not it be you? If there's a goal that you wanna, or a record you wanna break in your industry, why not it be you? It's gonna be somebody. Let it be you, right? And so that we have to explore our beliefs so that we can understand our behaviors, which I'm gonna dive into a little bit more as we move along. And then every day we have to be intentional working towards that. Intentional, meaning waking up and thinking about our day before we actually go through it. Before you even get out of bed, just visualize how you want your day to go. What's that meeting gonna look like? What is the point of the meeting? Do you know how many people go into meetings, or I'll ask this question, how many of you have ever been in meetings for an hour and you walk out and you're like, what just happened for an hour? Because there was no intention. No one set the intention. The person setting the meeting should have clarified the intention. Anytime you set a meeting with anyone, you will get more meaning out of the meeting or the call if you set an intention in advance. Then there's an expectation. Now you can move through the conversation with a lot more clarity, with a lot more concise conversation, instead of everyone sitting there going, why are we here again? What's this were you just here for coffee and food? And so setting your intentions every day to yourself and to others allows you to get more out of every experience in life. And so now that we have the solid foundation, I'm gonna go into the acronym of MORE for you. And you can use this acronym, as I mentioned, at any stage of your life where you feel like you want to elevate. Our elevation, our personal evolution, is a lot like riding in a hot air balloon. And I use this analogy so that everyone can really understand how the system of evolution, personal evolution, works. So it's like riding in a hot air balloon. And when you're riding in a hot air balloon, before you take off, what do you have to do? Get rid of some sandbags. Now let's just say we're doing this in Central Park. and you decide, I want to take off in this hot air balloon, you get rid of these sandbags. The sandbags are symbolic of your stuff, your limited beliefs, and the behaviors that are keeping you down. Or if you don't get rid of them, you'll not go up. And so then when you begin to elevate, as you're rising above the trees in Central Park, you say, wow, I had no idea that there's so many trees in Central Park. Because your perspective before that was only walking through Central Park. Now you're above the trees and you see it differently. And once your perspective changes, you change every time. You'll never see Central Park the same way again. Even when you're walking through it, now you know that there's so many more trees above it. And so your perspective changes and you take it in, and then eventually you get bored and decide you want to up level again. And so what has to happen? The same exact thing has to happen. You have to evaluate what beliefs and behaviors are now keeping me here to go to the next level to get another new perspective. Because as that perspective keeps changing, you keep changing. As your brain keeps changing, you keep changing, your outcomes keep changing. But we can't change our outcomes without changing our beliefs. We can't get a new outcome without changing how we're seeing the world in the current state. And so what do we do from there? At that moment, we have to decide we're going to keep up-leveling and evaluating who we are on a constant basis. That's really the name of the game. And so as we up-level, we constantly audit, doing a process of self-reflection, which begins with M, mindfulness. The M stands for mindful because in order to get more of everything you desire in life, you can't without becoming more mindful. Mindfulness isn't exercises of yoga and meditation. Those are part of how you can become more mindful. They're exercises of getting centered, getting quiet, helping your mind meditate. But mindfulness is really about becoming a self-auditing person, reflective, on an ongoing basis, becoming more self-aware of on an ongoing basis the thoughts that you're thinking, the quality of the thoughts that you're thinking. We're thinking usually the same thoughts over and over and over again in life. And if you're thinking the same thoughts over and over again, and they're low quality thoughts, are you going to have a high quality life?
Come on.
Absolutely not. When I say low quality thoughts, I think negative thoughts. I mean negative self-talk. So getting really aware of the quality of your thoughts, and then the quality of your words. When somebody says to me, I'll try to make it to your event, they're not coming.
The wolf knows.
Like, you might as well just cross them off the list. Because they're not coming. And they're just saying, I'll try because they don't want to disappoint you and they can't figure out appropriate excuse in the moment.
Jeez, my God.
The quality of your words and listening to the quality of others' words is really important. There's a training called Neuro-Linguistic Programming, NLP. I highly recommend it for everybody because it really helps you learn how to hear what people are saying, even if they're saying something different. You can do a quick online course just to get an introduction to it, and it really is a game changer. But becoming very aware of the words that you're choosing. If you're leading a team and you say to your team, oh, I think we can do this, versus we can definitely do this, how's your team feeling? Way more empowered. If I'm hiring someone or bringing someone on my team, and I say to somebody, can you do this skill set? And that person says, well, I don't really know how to, but I'll try and figure it out. And somebody else comes in and says, I don't know how to do it, but I will figure it out. Who am I hiring? The I will person. Because they already said to me, I'm committed. So listening to the quality of your words and the quality of others, their words, really helps us connect and communicate a lot more effectively in the quality of life we're going to have. Then also becoming mindful of what you're doing in your free time. Is what you're doing in your free time in alignment with your desires? Look, I'm all about work hard, play hard. But I also reflect back to during the pandemic. A lot of people said, oh, okay, I'm going to use this time to read all those books and take those courses. And then you ask them how it went, and the next thing you know, they went through every Netflix series possible. But what they were doing in their free time wasn't getting them closer to where they really wanted to go. all that time was squandered. So finding a balance in what you're doing in your free time and how it's affecting your desires. Using time like this, I mean, obviously everyone's in this room investing in themselves. Using time like this as a priority, investing in your growth. Personal growth equals happiness. The fastest way to get happy, especially if you feel stuck, is to grow. Do something that you're not doing. Do something you've never done before. Invest in a course, or invest in even a book or an audio book, and you will feel ignited. If you're feeling down in the beginning of the day, find a great audio book, get on a treadmill or go outside walking, you will feel up pretty quickly. The next is who you surround yourself with. Being mindful of the people you're surrounding yourself with is incredibly important. I'm sure all of you have heard that you are the sum of the people you surround yourself with, but this is incredibly true. So I say detox the drainers and increase the enhancers. Detox the drainers and increase the enhancers. There was a movie that came out recently from somebody that I grew up with in Delco that was originally called Crabs in a Bucket. Stay away from the crabs in the bucket. The crabs in the bucket want to bring you back down. Everyone doesn't necessarily want to see you elevate, unfortunately. And unfortunately, even more so, sometimes it's our own family or the people you grew up with, because they think if you evolve, you're no longer one of them. It's kind of crazy, right? That's self-sabotaging thought in and of itself. But if you grow and evolve, then you're not going to be one of them anymore. Or you're not going to have anything in common with, or you think you're better than me now. I mean, there's a lot of crazy subconscious projections that happen with that. Do not let that bring you down. Now, there is a caveat here, because I know people will say, well, Jen, what about the family members that we can't actually escape from? What we do in this is you change your expectations of them. Your expectations of others is the number one thing that causes self-inflicted pain.
Sheesh.
Say that again.
My God.
Yes, I'm going to say it again because this is a game changer. If you take nothing out of here, this will change your every relationship. Your expectations of others is the number one thing that causes self-inflicted pain. People cannot think like us, act like us, or be like us because they're walking a different path. Their perspective is very different because they've walked a different path. So even if it seems like, how do they not see this? How do they not get this? How do they not know I like flowers on Friday? Because they did not walk that path. And so their perspective is completely different. And perspective is a tricky and fascinating thing. But I'm going to say this a couple times throughout too. Your perspective is never the truth. It's just your perspective. My perspective is not the truth. It's just my perspective. I like that. Can you come with me every time I speak?
Sure can.
I like that. Our perspective is just a culmination, now follow me right here, it's just a culmination of all of our life experiences and assumptions in those experiences that lead us to this moment. I'm going to say it again. Our perspective is a culmination of all of our life experiences and the assumptions in those experiences that lead us to this moment. Why do I say assumptions? Because throughout life, we assume our assumptions are the truth about what's happening, and often it is not at all. And if we all experience something together, we'd all probably have very different perspectives of what just happened. And so when we learn that our perspective is not the truth, it's just our perspective, and everybody else's is not the truth, it's just their perspective, we can actually learn to live in harmony with each other a lot more and expect a lot less. Not of ourselves, but our expectations of others to think like us, act like us, and be like us. Because they can only do what their capacity is. Each human only has a capacity of certain perspective and emotions based on where they are. I'm going to add one more thing to this part of expectations. The number one form of self-respect or respect of others is to accept people for where they are, not where you want them to be.
Jeez.
I know this is hard. It's hard, especially doing what I do, because you can see the potential in everybody. You just want them to get it. How do you not see your strengths and your potential? But someone can't get to there without walking the path that they have to walk on. We can model the path, we can encourage the path, but we cannot force anyone to be how we want them to be. We have to accept them for where they are. And when you change your expectations on forms of that acceptance, we have a lot less self-inflicted pain. Yes, exactly. See how it came full circle, right? And that, my friends, is freedom. Bye.
That's it.
That's freedom. Freedom of letting go of other people's stuff being our stuff. Freedom of our stuff. And so becoming more mindful of the people that we surround ourselves and how they make us feel, or how we choose to feel, by the way. It's all our choice. No one can take away your power. No one can make you feel any way that you don't want to feel, which I'm going to go to in just a few more minutes. But the next thing is being mindful of how we treat ourselves. Self-love, self-care. Now this, I'm not going to get into like a whole like nutrition conversation, which I could because I love it, but how we choose to treat our bodies on an ongoing basis will affect how we feel. So we have a holiday coming up. How's everyone going to feel about 6 o'clock on Thursday? Your most energetic version self? Absolutely not, right? So knowing and understanding this, I slept unfortunately just like 2 hours last night. I'm okay today, but if I did that again tonight, you think I'll be my best version self? Absolutely not. By the way, that only happened because my daughter was flying from Arizona. I kept waking up. She was on a red eye. I kept waking up all night making sure she got home. So, you know, that feeling, right? So, anyway, understanding how we hydrate. Hydration, we're made up of over 80% water. If we're dehydrated, we're tired. If you have a headache, before you take aspirin, say to yourself, did I drink enough water today? And if you did, chug some water, and then wait before you take that aspirin, because chances are you're dehydrated. How we sleep and prioritize sleep. How many of you are good sleepers in here? This is actually a way greater amount than in most, this is a larger percentage than in most crowds. It's usually like 20% in most crowds. I'm going to give you a couple tips real fast on sleep. Number one, and this is such a little trivial fact, but a lot of people walk away going, I can't believe I never knew this before. White noise. Old school box fan. White noise is really important, and you guys know why? The first noise that every one of us heard was in our parents' room, our mother's room, and that's white noise. And so even though we're adults, we actually feel lulled and calmer when we hear the white noise. So that's why white noise helps people sleep. It also drowns out the outside noise. Other things is food. Again, this is not going to get a nutrition thing here, but energy management is what I'm going to get into in mental clarity. So I used to be a sugar addict. Clearly was a sugar addict. It was my coping drug of choice as a child through my traumatic childhood. But what it does is it actually sends a spike of insulin, and then it numbs your brain, which is why I call it a coping drug of choice. It numbs your brain, literally numbs your brain, and then you plummet afterwards and exhausted. So, I'm not saying people can't have it. I'm just saying, would you want to have that before a big meeting? Absolutely not, right? So I actually broke that addiction when I had my twins because I felt so sleep deprived for like ever. And I realized that I no longer had time to feel tired because I valued my energy so much more than being tired at that point. Because when you're younger, you don't even think about it. You're just like, oh, well, I'll just sleep tomorrow. I'll sleep next year. I'll be fine. And then all of a sudden you get older and you're like, I'm exhausted and I can't function. And literally can't function. So I changed my belief and here's where we're moving into the next thing, becoming more mindful of your beliefs. This could be an hour or 3-hour lecture right here. We're going to make it as brief as possible. Your beliefs, like I mentioned, are often programmed. I just told you my subconscious belief attached to sugar, right? Because I've evaluated that at this stage of my life. But as a kid, it was just, I don't feel safe, or I feel like I'm in a state of trauma, so I reached for a sugar cube, or birthday cake icing, or whatever it was at that moment. Because it gave me, subconsciously, a sense that I was looking for to feel better in that state. And so, my belief was, for a long time, that sugar was my friend. Not a conscious belief, a subconscious belief, sugar was my friend. Until I realized it was my foe, because it was stealing my energy. So I changed my belief. My belief in this moment became, I no longer have time to be tired, as I mentioned. And the value proposition attached to the new belief was, nothing tastes as good as my good energy feels. And anytime I was tempted to eat the sugar, I would say, nothing tastes as good as my good energy feels. I hardwired my brain differently. I actually changed my brain in that moment by taking an old belief, flipping it to a new belief, and adding a valuable value proposition. Now I'm going to give you another example of this because this is Neuroscience 101 and it's so powerful in getting more of what you want in life. On January 1st, we often see this phenomenon at the gym.
Talk about it.
By January 21st, the people at the gym are the same ones that were at the gym the year before. Now, as a person who had a sugar addiction and was in the fitness industry to psychologically try to break my addiction, I would really be wondering, why does this happen? It's not that they don't have the right intention. Everyone has the right intention. But why do we fall back to our old patterns? Well, because the beliefs are not in alignment with the desire. So I say to people during this exercise, do you love exercise? Nope, I hate it. Do you love eating like super healthy? Nope, I hate it. All right, well then why would you change? You're not going to change. We can't change something we don't believe in. So I say to them, well, what do you like about it? What do you like? Well, I like how I feel afterwards. I like that I have more energy. I like that I have more mental clarity. I like that I feel like I take on the world. Okay, great. So let's flip the old belief. So your neural pathways in your brain, flip the old belief to, I love exercise. They're like, but I don't. And I'm like, not yet. But you're going to flip the old belief to a new belief, creating a new neural pathway in your brain, and now you're going to create a new value proposition. I love exercise because I love feeling energized. I love feeling productive. I love feeling mentally clear. That's what you value. So as you drive to the gym, that's what you're saying to yourself. As you're at the gym, that's what you're saying to yourself. As you leave the gym, that's what you're saying to yourself because you're hardwiring your brain from your old belief to your new belief. This happens in every aspect of your life of a belief that you need to change. I used to have a serious fear of failure because my dad was a drill sergeant in the Marines. And failure is not an option was very much belief in my home. But guess what? If you teach a child failure is not an option, they're going to do anything that they can do to not do something they can fail at for fear that they're a failure. So I had to change that belief. Flip the belief. Do the process one more time. I flip the belief to I have more fear of regret than I have of failure. New belief. More fear of regret than I have of failure. Value proposition. Failure is just part of the process on a journey to success. No one is successful without having bumps in the road. And so how they deal with it is how they succeed. They just take their failures as lessons of learning and growing and evolving. And so that's how we can change our beliefs. So people will say to me, well, Jenna, if I knew what beliefs I had to change, I would just change them. Well, here's how you figure out what beliefs you have. Whatever outcome you have in your life right now that you don't like, there's 1,000,000% beliefs that have to change. Whatever outcomes that you have in your life, whether it's around relationships, money, business, customers, whatever it is, that you're not happy with, a belief has to change in order for the outcome to change. So really start to evaluate, what's that thing, and now what could I possibly be believing to change that belief to something different, to get a different outcome. And so when we become mindful of all those things, the quality of our thoughts, the words that we choose, the people we surround ourselves with, how we're treating ourselves, the beliefs that we have, first and foremost, we become more, and we get more out of life. The next is the O, which I already jumped ahead and went through. But the O is optimizing our physiological state. Is in direct proportion to your mental and emotional state. How we treat ourselves is how we affect how we feel. Jumping ahead to the R, learning how to be more responsive versus reactive. This is the emotional intelligence component. I saw this movie many years ago called The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. It's a lot like Karate Kid. There's a master and a student, and the student wants to get to this goal without doing the work. We've all been around that, right? Where everyone just wants to jump ahead the fundamental skills to get to the result. Well, sometimes you can get to the result, but you're always going to slide backwards without getting the fundamental skills down. So the student gets really mad at the master and has a temper tantrum, basically, throwing chairs and screaming at him, and the master stands still and he goes, "Fools react, warriors respond." And I was like, whoa. Growing up in a lot of really reactive behavior, that was like game changer. I want to be the warrior, not the fool. And anytime after that I started getting triggered by something, by people, a circumstance, and I wanted to react, I would say that mantra: fools react, warriors respond. Be the warrior, be the warrior. There's another one that I created too, act with class, not like a...
Oh.
Right, it's being recorded. So those mantras, you keep hearing me say mantras or affirmations. Those are how you repeat something to your brain to change your brain. And so learning to be more responsive versus reactive is about learning how to have more emotional control. And often we have to begin the emotional control with our mental control. That's how we change our emotional state, with our mental control. And sometimes we have to have what I call reframes. And so learning how to pause and assess, why am I feeling this way? Is this really real? And then reframing our thought process gives us a different emotional outcome. It's how we control our thoughts. So I'm going to give you what I call a couple mindset shifts to take with you. So whenever you're triggered or somebody's making you feel like you want to react, we all know that feeling, right? We can respond. Number one is, nothing has meaning until you give it meaning. Nothing has meaning until you give it meaning. You are the meaning maker of everything. If someone offended you, it's because you let them. If someone hurt you, it's because you let them. If somebody said something to you that you didn't like, or people will say, no, that person stole from me, that person cheated on me. But what meaning did you give it? The meaning is on them, really. If they're cheating and stealing, that's their character flaws, not yours. So you either have two choices: to give them power or keep your own. To allow your decision of what meaning you give it to hurt you or help you. It's literally the only two choices. Is it hurting you or helping you, the meaning you've given it? And we then have a choice in our own power to say, I'm not going to give that person my energy. I'm not going to give that person my power. I'm not going to be a victim to the circumstance. I will be a victor. And so, and gloss over my childhood a little bit, but I grew up with a brother only 11 months older than me. We had the same exact childhood. And he gave our childhood a victim meaning. And I gave it, nope, that was a training ground of my success. It taught me how to be adaptable. It taught me how to be resilient. It taught me how to give every skill set that I needed to survive. As you can imagine, my brother's life is 180% opposite of my life, because the meaning that he gave our childhood. And so any story you have in your life right now that you don't like, you could change it. Anyone that did something to you, change it. Take your power back. Any story that you had of victimization in your life, that you're mad at someone, you're angry, you're holding, take your power back. Change the story. Like I said about my childhood, my meaning was, no, this was a training ground of my success. I wasn't a victim to that. It was amazing. I learned all these skill sets. And so the next one is hurt people, happy people don't. And you're getting triggered by somebody. Recognize, hurt people, happy people do not hurt people. There's no reason to. There's no reason to hurt somebody when you're happy. I taught my kids this when they were little, knowing that they were eventually going to go in middle school as girls, and things get a little hairy sometimes. So I taught them, hurt people, happy people don't. And I also taught them that we live in the drama-free zone. Please keep drama out of our space. We live in the drama-free zone. So when this little girl was picking on another girl, my one daughter, Madison, stepped in and said, we live in the drama-free zone. Please keep drama out of our space. And then she said, you can become our friend again when you learn to be a better friend. And I was like, wait, I didn't teach you that. She said, yes, you did. You said, hurt people, hurt people. And her parents are going through a divorce right now, so I think she's just in pain. And so I think when she isn't in pain anymore, she become a better friend. Kids, man, they get this stuff way better than adults often. And so they didn't alienate her forever. They just gave her the option to become a better friend. And so she did. She's literally their best friend in the world. She came to every family vacation with us. But I often think, what if they alienated that young girl going through that? What if they shunned her? What if they made her the odd girl out in that situation? What could have happened to her? I don't know, but probably not as good of an outcome as today. And so I learned something from my daughters at that moment. People often act not who they are, but what they're going through. People often act not as who they are, but what they're going through. None of us are our best self when we're going through something. Are we? No. But if we can acknowledge that in ourselves, we can acknowledge that in others. And we can often, instead of just push people away forever, allow them, like my daughters, to say, you can become our friend again when you learn to be a better friend. You don't have to say it that way. But giving people the grace and space to continue to walk their journey and evolve and become their better version self. I'm going to give you one more mindset shift, and then we're going to wrap it up. But what you focus on expands. When you focus on everything that's going wrong in life, you're going to surely get more of what's going wrong. And when you focus on what's going right, you're going to get more of what's right. You're going to have gratitude. We're in the week of Thanksgiving, right? Gratitude is one of the most powerful ways to shift your perspective and go from the sky is falling to everything's amazing. And so the attitude of gratitude, that gratitude journals, people live by this and change their lives because of this. I'll take gratitude one step further. A higher energy in quantum physics above gratitude is appreciation. It's the expression of what you're grateful for. And the higher energy state, the highest energy state in quantum physics is love. When we hit the emotion of love, we're at our highest energetic state. And so when we can get to a place where we're realizing we're focusing on the wrong thing to shift to the right thing, or focusing on the right things in others, do you think a lot of people would prefer being nagged upon or being told that they're doing things good more often? And even if you have to help somebody course correct, it doesn't sound so bad if you've already complimented them a bunch of times. Because then they don't feel like you're being nagged upon, right? And so when we focus on the good things, it's called positive reinforcement in psychology. When you focus on the good things, people will want to do more good things. And yes, sometimes things aren't perfect and people might have to course correct, but it doesn't sound so bad if they've had more positive reinforcement than negative reinforcement. So those are a few mindset shifts to help you whenever you're in a situation. I mean, life is great until we interact with other people often, right? crying by yourself in the car, and then all of a sudden something happens. So it's really in our human interactions that we have to understand our emotional intelligence the most in order to live our best lives and be our best versions of ourselves, to get more out of everything in life. And the last is the E, and it's learning to excel in all aspects of life. And what I mean by this is there's 4 core quadrants of your life. Your personal evolution, your professional development, your health and well-being, and your relationships, or the health of your relationships. And all of those things are interconnected. You cannot separate any of them. We are humans, we are not robots. And when our relationships are falling apart, our health is falling apart. If our health is falling apart, our business is falling apart. They're all interconnected. So if we can nurture all 4 core quadrants of our lives on an ongoing basis with the same level of priority, then when something happens that's unexpected, we can handle it a lot more effectively. And that way, we also get greater fulfillment. Success isn't just bank accounts and cars that we're driving. Success is fulfillment, first and foremost. Success is being able to wake up and saying, I am living my best life. I am being my best version of self. I'm proud of myself for my growth and what I've achieved in my relationships with myself and others. That's where we get the greatest fulfillment. And so I appreciate you all being here today and being so attentive and funny and engaging as well. And I hope that you can take some of these thought processes and tools and strategies and add them to your life so that you can get more of everything you desire in life today, 2023, and every year going forward. Thank you all so much.
Well, that's it, everybody. No, I don't need them. Thank you, Justin. I can't follow that. There's nothing to say. Except for there is dessert coming out. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, everybody, so much who took the time to come. Please hang around and stay if you can. There are special treats coming out, and thank you again. I hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving and so good. Yeah. Oh, the book is available on Amazon. Okay.
Thank you.
I got my copy on Amazon. I will be sure to share the link with all of you. So,
Thank
yes,
you.
You're welcome.
Feel to get more. That was dope.